Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Wednesday night. Welcome to Tone Talk with Mark Huzansky and Dave Friedman. How's it going?
Mate. This is my show. This isn't Tone Talk. This is my show. How are you guys going?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Totally forgot.
You know, I thought there is no chance that I would ever be good enough to be a guest on your show. So why not invite you guys onto my show? So thank you guys for coming on. How's things?
My God, that's crazy. Thanks for having us.
Things are good.
No
Things are
problem.
fine, I guess.
Guys, I'm going to launch right in. How did you guys meet up and get Tone Talk started?
Well,
So you want to answer that, Dave?
yeah, I'll do it. So Mark was a co-host on a different show that I was on, which is now called something different, and I don't even remember what the original name was. And so he was on it, and then we were friendly from that show, and he said he was leaving that show, and I said, well, why don't we do one? Why don't we do a show, But here's the deal.
Mhm.
You have to do the logistics of everything because I just don't have the time in my day to, set it up, do it, book guests and things like that. And he said yes. And
Yeah, I was thrilled.
and there we go. And now it's been, how long now has it been?
3 years.
Has it been 3
Yeah.
years already?
3
Oh my
years.
God.
Yeah, we're going on our 70th episode.
Wow.
Wow.
How did you
Yeah.
guys find it at first? Were you a bit sort of nervy doing it? But Mark, you said you've been doing it for a while.
I did it for about 6 months, co-hosting on another show, but I wasn't running the logistics of it at all. So that the other person was running all the background, doing the show and all the electronics and stuff, programming and everything. And so I had to pretty much learn that as best I could in the time frame when Dave said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" I think Dave assumed that I knew what I was doing.
I learned that you didn't. But
Yeah. I'm
That's
getting
okay.
there.
You do
Getting
better
there.
than me.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I do pretty good. But yeah, it's been great. I mean, we started right off the bat with Grover Jackson, so it's been, for me it was a home run right for the start. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I couldn't believe when Dave asked me actually because that was the last thing I ever expected.
Yeah.
I was really just quitting a show and saying, "Hey, just want us to stay connected and be, continue to be friendly." And Dave's like, "Well, hang on a second." I was like, "Really? You really want to do that?" So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Mark, I'm just having a look at your room there. Is that your little man cave at home, is it?
Yeah. So this is like my comic book room, music room, escape. My wife and I used to share this, and she had a desk on the other side. And slowly but surely, I moved her out of here.
Took over. Cool.
Yeah, my daughter moved out. She went to college, so my wife now has her room, and I've got my little room, which is fun.
Nice.
It's like yours. I like your little setup.
Yeah, this is actually my lounge room, believe it or not.
Nice.
Always been. I like to work from home and have the convenience of just being able to get up from the lounge, which is just over there. It's my kitchen, etc. Yeah, I'm a sucker for convenience, so I like to do it like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and whereabouts do you do yours from, Dave? You're at your workshop, or usually?
No. Well, I used to, a lot of times I was at my workshop, but now I have set up a workshop at my house, so I have my own man cave. Although you can't see all of it in the picture here, but and it's too hard to move my computer to show you.
Yeah. Is
But
that?
I have a desk, a workbench, and a bunch of guitars on a wall over here, and it's a small room though. It's only I don't know, 12 feet by 12 feet or something. It's just a small bedroom size room.
Is that your mystical plexi behind you that I see?
It is.
It is?
It's 68 50-watt plexi. Yep.
Nice.
And below it is a Jose modded 100-watt Marshall. And
That's yours also?
yeah, that's mine also. And then Below that is a old early 70s basket weave cabinet with, not basket weave, I'm sorry, checkerboard cabinet with black back 30 watt 55 hertz Celestians. And then I have another cabinet on the other side of the room. It's a black back, which was the 25, 75 hertz Celestians, also checkerboard. I recently got those on some really great deals.
Wow. I mean, what do you prefer?
When I was growing up, I had cabinets like that all day long. Because they, it was a dime a dozen. I mean, they were they were $350 or something. At the time when I was growing up in the 80s, it wasn't that much big deal. It's just a checkerboard cab. You didn't think much of it. So I didn't have any more of these old cabs. So I kind of was like, I really want some old cabs. And I really want them to be blackbacks, actually, too. And
it's hard to find.
A deal fell in my lap. Someone that I had done some business with said, hey, there's this pawn shop that has all these Marshall cabinets and other things, heads and things. And I think it was something like 6 checkerboard cabinets or something.
Wow.
That were for sale. And they'd been sitting in the pawn shop for something like 18 years in storage. So I'm like, okay. He goes, I bought one. I'm like, well, how much? How much are they? And it was like, I think one cabinet was a little cheaper than the other for some reason. I don't know. I think he got a little greedier as it went on, but $600 and $700 is what I paid for each of those cabinets.
Cool.
Wow.
And that's a bargain, considering these cabinets are probably more like a $1,500 cabinet on the fair market,
Right.
So of course, at that time, even though I didn't want to spend any money, I had to buy them. And then I told Pete Thorne, and then Pete Thorne bought one.
I was going to say, you know what? Because I saw Pete had one. I was wondering if he had borrowed it from you. But he bought one.
George Lynch bought one.
In the know.
So
we just all went crazy.
Around?
Yeah.
Guys, you've had some really cool guests over the years. Who's had the best stories? Who do you look back on and just go, man, how cool was that? And how was the stories? One springs to mind for me, but I'd like to hear from you guys who your favorite guest has been.
Well, well, you could categorize it a little differently. Artists, amp builders, and or luthiers. Grover Jackson had great stories. That was a great episode. It was quite good. I quite enjoyed Stevie Fryette's episode and John Suhr's episodes. Those were also, great, informative episodes that were great. I mean, Pete, but maybe the ultimate debaucherous episode was the Jakey Lee episode. And if you've watched it, you understand what I mean.
Not to the end. I didn't watch it to the end, but I'm going to. I saw everybody talking about it, so I'm going to.
Yeah. After the first 2 hours, that's when it starts getting good.
Okay, I have to watch some more.
That's when you see Dave go down the drain.
I've seen Dave go down the drain in person.
Yeah, no, that was not to the same extent.
Really?
Yeah, that was great.
It's embarrassing, watching yourself drunk.
Yeah, that was going too far, and but
But you know what? You were in a hotel room with Jakey Lee.
It was in a hotel room with Jakey Lee, and we were both drinking heavily.
Yeah. How can you not pass that?
But here's the funny thing about that stuff. So people love watching the train wreck.
Yes, true.
And people, so many people said that by far was the best episode we've ever done.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. Mark, I'm sure you got more than I do even. And
Yeah,
people are just like, oh my God, you got to have him on again. I want to see this again, you know?
it's true. It's
And
true.
so, you know,
There were tons of comments like that. This was the best one ever. This was the best. And meanwhile, when that show got done, I actually felt like, oh my God, what, was that really bad? Did we go too far? And
well, it went to all the news media all over the U.S., all the rock news, everything for some of the things that were said.
Yeah.
We have an incredible number of views on that video. So, I mean, we thank all the news media for all their help with that.
Yeah, no doubt. That was
I'm okay
surprising.
with that. If we get some more of that, that'd be great.
No such
I
thing as
agree.
bad publicity, as they say, huh?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
You know what? There was there was zero backlash from that show. Only positive, actually.
Yeah, there really wasn't. No, and even it was interesting just to watch when like Jakey Lee said some things about Motley Crue, right? And then Nikki Sixx tweeted, didn't say anything directly about Jakey Lee, but you knew who he was referring to, and and then the news outlets picked up on that too, and it was really kind of interesting just to sit back and listen. But it all kind of just fizzled away. I love the Mike Soldano episodes.
That was great.
He had great stories of, especially the one part that I loved was when he pulled out the paper of the original owners of all the first Soldanos that he sold, and I remember later on freezing that and just looking at the list. I wanted to see who, because he held that up and I was like, dude, you need to make a copy of that. But that was super cool. He had great stories, and then also Richie Faulkner.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah. Oh, he was great from Judas Priest. Really nice guy.
Fun.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah, he's a really great player and just really good dude, and had great stories, and very just well spoken.
He's gonna have a baby any minute.
I heard.
Yeah,
I saw little baby
George Lynch's daughter,
Baby Lynch.
Cool. I personally
grandbaby.
really liked the Seymour Duncan episode myself.
that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. I did meet Seymour at NAMM a couple of years ago. He had the big lineup and do the meet and greet. And I think I said something just like, man, what a cool life you've had. And he just, started coming these stories. I'm thinking, there's this line of people, man. Don't keep them waiting. I'd love to hear this. And he came onto your show, and we did get to hear those stories. So I think somebody mentioned that he should make a coffee table book, and that's a really good idea.
Yeah. He really should. Yeah. I mean, I hope someone does that before he's no longer with us or something.
Yeah, he has an incredible amount of pictures of him with tons of people, going way back, and I think that would be, in addition to his stories published with those pictures, would be fantastic. Yeah. After he was on our show, they started doing some series of things, kind of documenting his thoughts on things, and now they're doing interviews with certain people and stuff like that. So they're definitely more social media present than they've ever been. And they come out with some great products too.
Totally.
Great pedals.
Sure.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Seymour's a good dude.
So, when I watch you guys doing the episodes, it usually airs around midday on a Saturday for me. And I learn so much because everybody that you have on there is such a wealth of knowledge. Do you guys actually learn a lot of stuff yourself from these guests during the episodes?
Well, for me, I always learn because I'm no way near a pro like a lot of these folks. So, But Dave, what about you?
I mean, not much for me because a lot of these people that we've had on the show, really tech savvy people and different things, I've known for years. I've known Mike Soldano since 1987. I've known Bruce Egnater since mid 80s. I've known Stevie Fryette since 1987. We haven't had Reinhold Bogner on, but that might be a hoot if we ever do.
Yes.
We have to have him on.
I've known him since, oh God, I don't know. I forgot when he came off the boat and walked in the door at Andy Brower's Studio Rentals back in the day. So, I've known all these people. So I've been there for years. I've been there when they started all their products and they started everything, all of them. And I was at the incubation period of all those products. So no, I learn less. I don't necessarily learn something, but it's nice to hear some stories. There's stories that I haven't heard before and stuff that are super cool and stuff. Yeah.
I guess once you get to a certain level of proficiency, technical proficiency like yourself, you start coming down to personal taste, isn't it? So when people start talking, you might be sitting there thinking, well, my take is a little bit different to that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's you always learning though. I mean, I'm not saying that you're not learning something, because if you're not learning something, it's you always learn, or at least I do. I'm always searching for something more. What can give me more, or how can I get more out of this? How can I improve this? Sometimes it's just sitting there staring at it for a while, and then it all of a sudden dawns on you, oh, I should route it like this, and oh wait, that makes. I occasionally still like there's moments of like that just dawn on you. You're just like, oh,
It usually hits me, stuff like that, just as you're about to fall asleep. Is that what happens to you? You sort of, and then that part of your brain goes, here's what you've been looking for.
Yeah, maybe not quite right when I go to sleep, but before, like at night while the television's on or something, and you start thinking about something, and you're like, oh, I could do that. Oh, I got to try that.
Cool. So I guess a lot of people aren't aware of what goes on behind the scenes of having an internet chat show. And Dave, you said, man, you wanted to do it, but you didn't want to know about any of that. And that's been designated to Mark. Man, you guys have got like really cool intros and stuff like that. Are you outsourcing other people to give you a hand with that, Mark? Or do you sit there and pick the brains of everybody else and try and do it yourself? How do you work that?
Well, the intro, actually, the music I did. And then we used a graphic designer to do the intro graphics for us, which was great. You have that skill, Rick. Obviously, your videos are great.
Thanks,
I love your demo video. Yeah, you have a lot more ability on the computer than I do when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, we outsourced that. But from the music perspective, I did the music on it, and I just learned along the way. Originally we used to use Google Hangouts.
I know.
Which went away. So it's like almost all these platforms eventually seem to be going away.
Yeah.
And you have to go to another platform for some reason. But
Skype's not going to go away.
Well, yeah, that's true. Skype for Business went away though, which was interesting. Yeah. I don't know why. Well, but Microsoft owns Skype, and then they phased in Microsoft Teams for Business. So, but anyway, but yeah, I mean, it's it's a lot of fun. I mean, during the week, it's actually a really fun distraction for me because my work for a living is nothing music related at all. So it's fun. Like during the week, I'll hit Dave up and be like, all right, who are we thinking about having as a guest? And then I'll try to chase them down, or Dave will try to chase some people down. And, and when we land a good guest, it's fun, it's a good feeling. So it's fun. It's kind of fun to run behind the scenes, but it's not easy,
No.
as you know.
Yeah, there is a lot. What people don't realize about creating YouTube content is thumbnails. Thumbnails is everything. I've got a bit of a template that I use now, but it took a long time to kind of refine it. I still tweak it, and then I'll just go on top of the last one and then just tweak it a little bit more to get something. All your branding, a lot goes on.
Yeah, it's fun to do. The one thing that I don't want to do, and I see that you don't do it also, Rick, is the clickbait. I try not to have clickbait titles and
I've
try to get
experimented.
that kind of.
I've experimented.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of the time, it gets nothing. And because I'm such an early stage at this, I realize that I don't want to be. Yeah. Clickbait, no, doesn't work for me. Even so much as the whole like and subscribe thing that people do. You know, now I've got that in my little end screen, a little thing comes up because I feel stupid begging for somebody's subscription. I figure if you come out with the right content, they'll subscribe, you know? So I'm still working on that.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally during a video we'll say, hey, make sure you hit the subscribe button or something like that. But outside of that, like I've thought, oh, should we make a video that just specifically says like the intro, hey, please hit the subscribe button when I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
The other thing I notice is a lot of people have their faces on thumbnails and they're trying to pull a different face for everything. Somebody contacted me a few months ago and they said, man, watching what you're doing everything right, but you need your face on the thumbnail because people need to see that and know it's you. So I did a few with hey, here's a cup, and I'm noticing just all the other big YouTubers that do it, and I'm not picking on them for doing it because it's become a bit of a standard, but how many fucking faces can you pull before you start having to pull some really stupid shit to be different to your last one, And so I'm glad I didn't go down that road. Instead, I've got my logo, my circle in the corner, and now as I'm scrolling through suggestions, it jumps right out to me. Steve Vai's got his logo. He doesn't need to have his face in there. My eye picks that straight away. Henning uses the same font, same colors. My eye has learnt to recognize that now, so I don't actually have to see his face to recognize that it is.
Which is good.
Which is good. I've actually got Henning on tomorrow, and that's going to be a lot of fun, actually. Because he's the type of guy that can throw some shit at him. He's going to throw it right back at you.
Oh, he's, he loves it.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, first of all, if we were going to put anybody's face on the show, it would be Dave. No one needs to see me. People know who Dave is. But I don't think that's, at least for us, the show is more about the guest.
Yeah.
And that's why we always focus on the guest than we do on us.
Yeah.
But some YouTubers, the show's more about them.
Yeah.
So, and I get that,
So, as you say, Dave's pretty recognizable. There's a million interviews out there. If people came here expecting a Dave Friedman interview of, hey, tell us how you got started in the amps and stuff, there's a million of those out there. There's a really good one on my channel.
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, when I did one with you at 42 Gear Street, I didn't just sit down and do a formal interview. It was days of hanging out and just having cameras on and having a drink, and thought, well, we'll just cut out a few bits of that. And I've got some nice feedback on that.
He was really drunk there. Let's not use that.
There was one I saw of you, actually. I'm sorry, my phone keeps banging. There was one I saw of you at 42 Gear Street. I forget who posted.
By the table?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was pretty toasted there.
That'd be one of mine. Yeah,
was that one of yours?
Yeah. It's funny. A friend, I barely ever drink. I'm one of these guys that once every 6 months, let's get drunk. So it doesn't take me much, and it was just flowing there. There was a video I released where
drinking there.
Yeah, well, you kept bringing the drinks, man. I was doing an interview with Mika and Sammy. And you're right behind us there, just giving us whiskey shots the whole time. And Mika was the same. He said to me afterwards, he's like, oh, man, I'm drunk. I don't do that. Oh, make sure I didn't make an ass of myself. And a friend of mine saw some of the footage. And within 10 seconds, he said, you've been drinking there. I can just see, I've seen when you've had one or two and your face changes. And it embarrasses me. So I try not to do it. Yeah.
We all have to loosen up every once in a while, especially during these times.
Sammy, on the other hand, seems to be a pro at it.
Oh yeah,
keeps his cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I was saying before, like Dave, you're really recognizable in the guitar community. Mark, for you, do people recognize you from the show?
Well, at NAMM, it was pretty surprising. After the first year of doing the show with Dave, and going to NAMM, and I was hanging out at the booth, and just outside of the booth, at one point it was just like, I almost felt like David for a moment. Like everybody was just like, "Hey, I love the show. Hey," and I was like, "This is freaking awesome." I was loving it. I really did. It was just but every day, no. I mean, but
Yep.
Dave clearly is the known person on the show. But yeah, for me, it's been great, and it's been great just networking with people and getting to know everybody in the music industry. It's it's fantastic. It's been great.
Well, that's how we actually met. I can remember walking into the Friedman dungeon, and it's quite dark in there. I remember walking in, and I'm sort of looking around thinking, I can't quite see. And I looked across the room and saw you. You saw me, and it was one of those, oh, hey, man. And we had never met, but we recognized each other from each other's videos. And I think we got talking, and you said to me, I'm going off to the Fender booth. Do you want to come with me? I said, yeah, why not? And we've kept in touch ever since. And I quite often tell people the story that Phil X, I saw a video of him. He was talking about how people recognize him, and Peter Frampton coming up to him and saying, "Hey, Phil, how you doing, man?" And being all Phil X, and him saying to him, "Oh, really nice to meet you." And he goes, "Oh, we've met." And he said, "No, I think I'd remember meeting Peter Frampton." About 2 days later, I was at NAMM, and I see Phil X just standing just over yonder, and he looks my way. He's talking to this really hot girl. He looks my way, and he sort of goes, and I do one of those really awkward,
You looking at me?
just in case it wasn't at me. And he's sort of excused himself and come over, and he's like, "Hey, man, how you doing? We've met before." And I thought, what is the chances of that? I just heard him saying that happens to him all the time, and he's just done that to me. And it was like, no, man, you've maybe seen one of my videos. And yeah, quite funny.
That's cool.
Yeah,
he's a nice dude.
That was awesome.
You know what? Most of the guys at the top, I'm starting to realize it's especially, I've been talking to a lot of manufacturers lately. When they Skype in, we sit around talking before and after for ages, and there seems to be a bit of a good guys club amongst everybody. You'll mention somebody from another company, and they'll go, "Oh man, yeah, he's gold. Bad dudes don't get far unless they're exceptionally talented, and you can't deny it, I guess." You guys encountered a few arse-wipes along the way, I guess.
I know exactly one, but I'm not going to say.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I love, actually, that I've seen a common trend on our show is that there's a lot of close-knit friendship among people in the music industry. Even in the gear industry.
Yep.
It seems like mostly everybody's friendly, sharing ideas, helping each other out, which is really cool because you don't see that a lot in other industries.
I got to say, for me, going to 42 Gear Street, I knew when I went there that I was a bit of an outsider with hardly any subscribers, and these guys are all big. I don't watch TV, I watch YouTube. And I didn't want to be seen to be trying to muscle in on people's videos and things. And there was a couple of people that I kind of got yeah, mate, don't try and work it yourself. But it was more that networking, meeting people. A classic thing is I had a guest last weekend, a friend of mine from here, the Gold Coast, Australia, who's been living in LA for a while now. He's been very successful with getting his music all over TV and film. So I had him on to talk about movie syncing. And I was asking him these questions, and I thought he wasn't answering he wasn't giving me the right answer. He'd go on these long-winded things, and I've got my eye on a few different things, making sure everything's still running. And I'm thinking, oh man, he's forgotten what I actually asked him. I asked a simple thing like, okay, so I've written a great song. What next? So I think this would be great for TV. How do I get it on TV? Expecting that he'd have a really short and sharp answer like, oh yeah, look up a publisher or blah, blah, blah. But he went on this big rant, and I'm thinking, are you answering my question? But then he always said, just to circle back to your original question and give me that short, concise answer I was looking for. And at the end of that, I'm thinking to myself, oh man, that was a disaster, wasn't it? My phone just went off with texts and messages on Facebook of people saying, that was brilliant. He covered so much and not in the usual way. And what he was talking about was the networking that's involved. And that when you get to know the people behind the scenes, how much easier it is to actually just flick them a message and, hey man, I've got this new thing, check it out. So yeah, the whole networking thing, particularly, it really is all about that, isn't it?
It's all about that.
Yeah, totally.
In a variety of ways, you know, it's not just, it's totally, everything's about that.
Yeah.
Everything's about the relationships that you establish from your networking. You know, it's like when you have friends at Sweetwater, or you have friends at, you know, it's all about that.
Yeah.
Who
So,
you know.
Dave, I've been aware of
And
you
how you treat. I'm sorry, Rick. I was
You
gonna
go,
say,
mate.
How you
treat
treat them, who you know.
Yep.
Did you take them to the strip club? Did you buy them a nice bottle of scotch if they like scotch? Did you know, certain things go a long way. You know, like it's like if you know someone's into scotch, you bring them a great bottle of scotch. Oh, they will remember for the rest of their life. It's funny, you know. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, oh he's got something new. Oh, I got to check this out." Yep. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll get another bottle of scotch.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. We were in the booth at NAMM, and the guy walks up to you and he's like, "Dave, how's it going? It's great to see you." And like, you know, you looked at him, you're like, you know, like kind of like that blank stare, like I don't know who you are. And he goes, "I gave you that bottle of Pisco." And you're like, "Oh yeah." You're like, "How are you?" Like that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. You knew immediately who he was, and you know, so that's funny.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
Yeah, just jog my memory, please, because in NAMM, it's like, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's tough.
We're not doing NAMM this year.
You not?
No.
Wow. Okay.
I don't think it's going to happen.
I can't imagine.
I think so.
if it does happen, I don't know how many people are going to go, or how many manufacturers are actually going to be there.
It might be a case where everybody's going to have to mask up and.
Well, of course, but man, masking up the whole entire show for 4 days, and no, I'm not going to put myself in danger for that. No,
Right.
We'll do some great videos for you people. How's that? We'll do some killer videos of any new products, and we'll put them out there, and you know, because you know, I got to be honest, frankly, I mean, like buyers at NAMM, which is the goal, right? You get people to come see your new products, and you want the buyers from the stores to buy the product. None of them play it ever. They just look at it. Maybe they listen to someone play through it real quick, or you just give them a description of what it is, or you know. Almost none of the buyers actually play it, especially if they're established, you know,
right.
Like people that, you know, already sell your products. So, I you know, more and more, it's just like, I'm not sure why anyone's there.
And if they do play it, the buyers, it's most of the time they're doing videos for YouTube anyway, like Peach Guitars or whoever, you know, any of those dealers.
Yeah, exactly. And you know the funny thing, and I think if you did very thorough product walkthrough demos of any new products, and you sent those to all of your dealers. Here's the new Friedman product line for, you know, whatever, for 2021, and they can just watch it and listen to it, and they're like, wow, that sounds great. That looks great. Oh, it looks cool. Okay. Done.
and think of
Hell
all
of
the
a lot
money.
cheaper to make a little video than go to NAMM.
Absolutely.
If I have 3 or 4 new products that, I don't know. It depends on what it costs to make the video, who's doing it, and what you're paying. But the most that could be is $4,000 or something. The floor space at NAMM is $50,000 or $60,000 for our booth.
Whoa.
The floor space.
Whoa.
That doesn't count union fees, freight fees, these fees, those fees. No, man. Mm-mm.
Yeah. It's crazy. And as much fun now, when you're working NAMM, it's not that much fun. But as much fun as I have going to NAMM, let's be realistic. At least from what I've seen, the majority of people at NAMM are either YouTubers, guitar player, like just musicians who are not in the industry. It's really become more of like a convention,
Yeah,
like a Comic-Con or something like that. It's not there. I'd say there's more people there than there are buyers that are, non-buyers than there are buyers there. That's for sure.
I'm kind of wondering if all this will change what manufacturers do with their new products and how they do things into the new millennium. And NAMM is sort of an antiquated model, so to speak. I think. I don't know. Does anyone really? I mean, January is not that far away, man. And it's like
It's creeping up.
does anyone really, after all this going on, wants to go to a show that generally gets you sick anyway? I mean, you generally walk away from it with the flu or some horrible anthrax sickness. And the funny thing is, I always said, I think we all should be wearing masks at NAMM. I think next year we'll get some masks with skull and crossbones on the front. Well, that's what it would be if we went, and I'm not personally interested in
it's not worth
jeopardizing my health to that extent. That is like the worst possible way. That would be like, I mean, just the number of people and the handshaking and everything else that happens, it's I mean, on a good year, it's detrimental to your health.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the last time I had a really bad flu was coming back from NAMM 2 years ago.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's and you know what and here's what I noticed. No matter if you're gonna shake people's hands at all, no matter it seemed like no matter what you did, hand sanitizer, washing your hands constantly, anything, nothing would prevent you from getting sick because you just inhale the person's sickness from them because you're standing so close to them, and
right.
And it's just
that's the one thing we've learned from this whole pandemic is how particles and aerosols, all this shit that goes into the air, which you don't realize, regardless of shaking hands.
If everyone would wear masks, I mean, that would be better. Sure. If no one shook anyone's hands, that would be great. That would be better. I don't think it would be very much fun anymore, though. I mean, at least not for me. I mean, Jesus, the mask thing all day. Oh God, I can't.
I can't even do it for a half hour at a store. I mean, I will wear it because I it's respectful and I do it because I need to. But God, I even said to my wife just recently, I was like, I couldn't imagine wearing this all day like medical people do, all day with like something covering that would drive me nuts.
Absolutely, yeah. One thing I did notice, and this was a couple of years ago before this all shit went down, I've got a bit of a voice issue. I used to work for Apple as a trainer, and I had to talk all day with no microphone assistance over quite a loud ambient noise, and it messed with my voice. I can't talk very loud anymore, project my voice without my voice sounding like a teenage boy going, and there's a few people. Grover was a classic one where I was talking to him, and I was trying to talk over the noise, and I actually said, "You have to excuse me, I have a bit of a voice issue." And I saw him just look at me and just take a step back. It was like, no, I'm not sick. It's my actual voice. So, people were wary then. I can't imagine now if you were to say that same thing, people would run away.
I mean, I remember having some girl interview me who was deathly sick. And I'm like, what? Wait, get away from me. Why the hell are you interviewing me? No, stay the... And, I actually kind of didn't... I got sick a little bit after NAMM this year, but not... It kind of subsided, although it seemed like a very strange sickness. It subsided within 4 or 5 days or something, so... Wasn't
I've been very lucky. I haven't gotten sick from any of the NAMMs that I've gone to.
Dave Black came back and he goes, "That's the sickest I've been in like 6 years." He goes, "I was down and out for 2 weeks."
Yeah, I heard Henning was sick.
It was Corona.
Oh, right after NAMM, this past
right
NAMM?
after NAMM. Yeah.
Oh wow, it could have been. Well, look, I mean, we talked about it on our show. Most likely, coronavirus was at NAMM this year.
Had to have been.
Yeah.
Somewhere. Had to have been.
Yeah.
With all the Chinese companies and everyone coming from China and stuff, it just had, and all the travelers from all over, it just had to. It's like one cesspool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
How do you deal with the noise level restrictions there, Dave? Like, that must be hard. You're selling amps and you want to wind it up and move some air to actually show people what it sounds like.
At NAMM?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, we have a sound room.
Yeah, but can you still... That
we
can
play
only
as
reduce
loud
it so
as we
much.
want in that sound room.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Does that have
I've
a
heard
floating
that.
floor?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a fully floating room, like on a floating floor and stuff?
Absolutely not.
No?
Here's the interesting thing. No, it's just insulated, not even really thick walls, insulated walls, sealed, relatively sealed. Not really. It's funny when you set up on a setup day and you and no one's in the hall and there's no noise going on other than the forklift or something going by, and you play the kind of volume we normally play in that room, it seems really, really fucking loud outside.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like loud.
Yep.
Like loud. And when the show goes on, I mean, the ambient noise floor of the show is like 80 dB.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the crowd noise just walking around.
Yep.
It completely disappears.
It does.
You don't hear it at all. And there's no directional, so they can't point. It's not directional, so they can't point a dB meter anywhere and get a louder reading. I mean, if you point it to the hallway, it would be the same reading as if you pointed it at the booth, because it's just ambient noise. So,
I don't know why other manufacturers.
I mean, we play loud in there. I mean, loud.
Cool.
Really loud.
Yeah. You have performances in there.
Yeah, with a PA cranking.
Cool.
Yeah. Or we did.
Yeah.
The whole DB police getting around there. I went to the Melbourne Guitar Show last year, and they don't have a dB limit. I lost my voice. I went down there with every intent of doing some interviews and all the like. By midday the first day, I'd lost my voice because they had a music school with some kids jamming on a real drum kit in there, not in a booth, just out in the open. And I'm trying to talk to these guitar builders. E.T. Guitars, Ernie Taylor was just across from them. And I'm trying to talk to Ernie, man. He was making some really cool guitars. And I just couldn't. I was like, man, I'd like to do an interview with you, but can't do it here. Maybe find me later. By the time we did meet up, I had no voice. It was crazy. What they did do there was once every hour, they enforced a no noise for 5 minutes or something like that. So the place would just go dead, no noise. And you're like, oh, thank fuck I can actually talk now.
That's the show. That's the show that someone from your part of the world does. Charles Cilia.
Yep, I was just talking to Charles last week.
Yeah, I love Charles.
Yeah,
He's
me
awesome.
too. Me too.
Awesome guy.
I
Beautiful guitars.
Yes, yes. I have to thank you guys because when I went, I got a classic story here. I went to the guitar show thinking, okay, there's a couple of guys on my radar that I want to introduce myself to, knowing that it was very early stages for me. And I saw Charles's booth and I was sort of walking towards it. There was a pedal builder right beside him. I've gone to have a look and that's cool. And I went to give him my card to say, hey man, if you ever want any pedal demos, please get in touch. And he grabbed my card. The first thing he said to me was, how many subscribers have you got? And I said, mate, I'm still fairly new, so I don't have that many. And he pretty much turned his back on me as if to say, well, don't waste my time. Just as he said that, I hear this, Rick Hollis, how you doing, man? I turn around and it's Charles Cilia walking towards me with his hand outstretched. And in my head, I've been rehearsing, how the hell am I going to introduce myself to Charles? But he knew me through you guys mentioning my name a few times on Tone Talk, so I must thank you guys for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those little handoffs go a long way, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, and yeah, Charles is. I rang him last week to find out how much to get myself I've been wanting a Strat with a Floyd Rose on it for a long time now. And he said, man, I got some really nice guitars here that I want to send you. That just keep them for a little while and have on in your channel. Maybe you do a bit of playing on them and stuff and send them back. But yeah, lovely guy.
Awesome.
Oh, I haven't seen their guitars. I'll have to check them out.
That and ET Guitars. They're the two guys that I think were really standouts for me.
Ernie Taylor.
Ernie
and
Taylor.
Cilia.
Yeah. Well, so ET Guitars, Premier Guitar.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
I don't know if this comes through at all with this lighting.
I can see it's a beautiful top.
Crazy flame on this top. Flame maple binding. Just, he made this for me. It's got a Friedman inlay on the...
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Kind of like a small scale through 335-y thing. It's as good as it gets from a guitar builder.
Yep.
Yep.
Like, in other words, if you look at the details on this guitar, I don't think anyone could do it any better. It's impossible. Wow. I mean, it's perfect. Literally perfect. So,
wow. All handmade?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. If you go on his Facebook page and you just start scrolling through posts for years and pictures, you will see some unbelievable looking flame-topped guitar. Just the wood he gets is crazy.
That's what his girlfriend told me.
If you like that stuff. Yeah.
I got to say, I've known of Charles since probably like the early 2000s. He was playing in a band called Jerk, which was a popular kind of industrial kind of band over here. Mm-hmm. And I remember somebody saying to me, hey, you know, Charles from Jerk actually builds his own guitars. I was like, really? Really? So that's when I first heard of him. And it wasn't until years later somebody said to me, have you checked out Charles Cilia guitars? I didn't put two and two together that it was the same guy. And when I saw a picture of him, I went, oh, that's Charles from Jerk. Cool. Yeah. And,
very cool.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite Australian guitar players. He was known in Australia as Jack Jones. I think in America he goes by the name Erwin Thomas. I
know him by both.
Yeah. I don't know what to call him. Jack, Erwin.
I've known Jack, Erwin, Jack, whatever.
Yeah.
I've known him since the, again, like late 80s.
Yeah.
Early 90s. You know.
I used to go to all his shows. He's a couple of years older than me. He was a bit of a child prodigy over here, I guess. When I was playing in bands, 14 years old, etc., there was two people that people would say to me, man, you're pretty good, but if you keep it up, you'll be as good as Jack from Hans Valen. They used to have a Van Halen tribute band.
Hans Valen,
yeah. And I mean, man, he's from like outside of Melbourne, and that's a long way away from me, man. That's 1,000 miles away. And so I'd heard of him then. And the other guy people used to say to me is, man, keep it up. You'll be as good as Keith from Brisbane one day. Keith Urban. So, yeah, those guys were brewing in the wings for quite a while.
It's kind of fun. Every once in a while, I get a text message from Keith Urban.
Really?
And and it's always a little surreal. I'm always kind of like, oh,
yeah.
Like he was going back in the studio during this lockdown. And he sent me a picture of he has a Friedman small box, and it's sitting on top of the studio rack at his studio, and he's going back in the studio, and he was using it evidently.
Wow, he's a great player.
Totally. Oh yeah, he's a fantastic player.
Yeah,
really talented.
So just talking about Jack, good friend of mine is a chap named Louis Shelton, and I've brought him up with you guys before, just in personal conversations. He's played on some of the biggest records dating back to the Monkees. He started Jackson 5, etc. He actually produced Jack's band Southern Sons, produced their second record. And I brought up Jack to him, and he said, man, Jack's the kind of guy who would get 10 Marshall Plexis and hook them all up and play through until he went, yep, that one, let's go with that one. Louis couldn't be any further from it. When he comes here to do a little bit of recording or some video stuff, puts his little lamp down, and I'll say, you got a preference on a microphone? Nah, man, whatever you got. How do you want me to mic position any particular way? Nah, man, just go. He doesn't care about that stuff. He just goes and plays. Yeah. I did message Jack not that long ago, seeing if he wanted to come on this show, but he didn't get back to me. I'm going to try him again. Erwin, if you're watching, man, please come on. It's not that scary. He was actually really kind to me when I was a youngster. I used to go to all these shows, and I'd end up back at his hotel room, hanging out, just guitar talk, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So he was always really cool with me at a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that there are some guitar players that have I'll plug in anything, just whatever, no real gear interest whatsoever. Oh. It's more about the playing.
Steve Lukather is kind of that way.
Really?
Yeah.
You wouldn't think so from his rig in the 80s, though.
Yeah, well, that was all Bob Bradshaw. It was all, Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but he barely knows where to plug the guitar into.
But I bet he could play.
I mean, sometimes he knows what he likes if he hears it. I like that. That's cool. That's a cool pedal. Or that sounds cool. But it's not really,
I bet if he just plugged into a PV Rage, it would sound like Steve Lukather.
Oh, yeah, he's great. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even if Mark can't say his name properly.
Dude, that is the funniest thing. So, have you heard this, Dave?
How you say Steve's name?
Yes. Yeah. So I finally figured this out with my family. I could not, for the life of me, we were doing a show, and in the chat, there were several people who were saying, God, will Mark start pronouncing Steve's name correctly? So I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out, how am I saying his name wrong? Like, what am I saying? I know that I can read, like I know what I'm doing, and but then so the difference, I emphasize the A, so I say Lukather.
Yeah.
And it's Lukather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what people are picking up on. I don't know why it's a big deal to people. But oh man, I definitely have taken some heat on that. It's weird.
So with all the guests you guys have had, who's your ultimate guest that you'd like to have on? And I'm going to jump in there before you answer and say, before we went live to air, I said to you guys, so when's Jerry Cantrell on? Because that would be
I don't know yet. So
you don't know. That would be really cool. But
that would
you guys got a
We're
wish
working
list
it.
guess?
Oh,
Apart from EVH, everybody would like EVH, but
that's not going to happen.
Well, that would break the internet. So yeah, that would go on forever. I don't think there would be any end to that conversation.
He would end it.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like. Well, yeah. I mean, we'd love to have Warren DeMartini on the show. You know, so far the answer's been no. So, I'll attempt to ask again.
You can
Yeah,
only
there's
ask,
gotta-
huh? You can only ask.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before. We focus on the right things with Warren. I think that would go the right way. But it's a live show. Maybe he doesn't want to take that risk.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think we'll see. We'll see.
A lot of people are freaked out by the live thing, and I feel settled now. This is all still new to me, and for the first 10 minutes, I can't watch myself because I'm talking way too fast. I'm just jumping in because I want to keep the flow. So we've been at it an hour now, and I feel like I'm just sitting around talking to you guys like we would, Did that take a while for you guys to find that?
No, time flies for us. When we get on the show, it's like, oh yeah, well there's an hour. Oh well, there's 2 hours. Oh, there's 3 hours, and it doesn't really seem like we've even talked about what we need to talk about yet. You know, sometimes.
Well,
I mean, there's been other shows that do the opposite and crawl, and that's all about chemistry. That's if there's good synergy with the guest, that's when the show comes out fantastic. And not to knock anyone, but some people aren't very talkative. Some people aren't very good with this. Some people, it's like you can, it'd be like pulling teeth, to try to get. People that have stories and are willing to tell them are what generally winds up being good, because then you're just sitting around and bullshitting, you're just sitting around talking, and that's when all the fun stuff comes out, So yeah, I don't know.
You mentioned you got.
It's just interesting. It's like some really flow really well, and some flow pretty good. Some, some are magic, some are duds.
Right. Some you just only have to ask one question and you're an hour in already.
Oh yeah.
Where they just kept going and let me tell you about this,
there actually has been shows where we've almost said nothing.
Right.
Where they just go where you're almost like, hey, but wait, wait, hold on.
I mean, Seymour was like that. Lee Jackson, they just flow.
Delano
These guys
talked a lot.
Delano,
flew, she talked.
Great storytelling.
Forever.
Do you get many people say no when you request for them to come on?
Some.
I've had some people who were surprising that I've been like, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to name them, but yeah.
I've had one person tell me no, a local player, and I was very surprised at that. She said, I need to work on my introductions. I thought I knew you and I didn't have to send you a bio to ask you if you wanted to come on the show, but.
Yeah, yeah.
I just got a not yet.
The funny thing is, though, I think we're going to see it gets easier right now, because it seems like everyone is going online and doing little performances and different things and from their homes and stuff and getting more comfortable with it. So I think we're going to see more of it. It might be easier.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I mean, originally, when I met you, Rick, around that same time, I met Peter Stroud at Dave's booth. Peter plays with Sheryl Crow.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's cool. He's Great tone.
Yeah, great
tone. Yeah.
Great player. But he was busy, after the couple of years after trying to reach him. I didn't hear back, but now because of the quarantine and everything, reached out and he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And he's been doing live performances with Cheryl and everything. So yeah, I agree with you, Dave. It's for some folks, it's going to be available for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I have had the odd person say, yeah, I'll come on, but I can't do it live. That I'll have to come over and we just shoot an interview and you're more than welcome to do that. And that's understandable. Very understandable. Like I said, if I go back and watch the first half hour of this, I'm going to just look at myself and go, yep, there you are, mate. You're still... Whereas now, like I said, might as well crack open the beers.
Fine.
Yeah.
Dude, my first show, the very first one with Grover, I wasn't sure what I was doing with the software, and I ended up thankfully, I focused on Grover. But the majority of the show is just to focus on Grover, and you just tiny little squares of me and Dave, because I could not figure out how to change back to, like when it would change based on who was speaking. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you were speaking, it would change I couldn't figure out what I did. So the whole thing was on Grover the entire time. And I was just like, oh man, what did I do? I'm fucking this up already.
It's not such a bad thing to have it focused on him. If it was focused on you while he was talking, another story,
Right, that would have been horrible. But even still, I know Dave was like, I can't have the camera back to me, and I'm like, yeah, I can't figure it out. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, just setting up this scene that I've got now, where I've got three-way. You guys can't see unless you're looking at your computer. The shot right now.
No, I just see you two next to each other, and then me in the little corner.
Yeah. No, we got a slight little Brady Bunch thing going on, man. Hang on, which way? It's all backwards, so I could almost stick my pen in your ear. No.
Oh man,
Dave, I wanted to ask you, man. I want to ask you something because I've actually been using you to tweak my gear since the Rack Systems days. And I've bought amps in the States, had them sent to you, and you've converted them to 240, etc. Mm-hmm. So I've been aware of you on forums and things. One thing that struck me is you can actually mix when it comes to recording and stuff. I'd heard you post some things that you'd recorded and mixed yourself, just little demos and stuff.
Yeah.
How did you pick that up? Because that's quite a black art in itself.
I love mixing. I don't get to do it much anymore. It's all ears. It's all sound. It's like making an amp and tuning it properly and knowing what it's supposed to sound like. It's all. That's all I can say, really. How did I learn? I mean, I practiced and I did it, and I just had an ear for it.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't think you can teach. You can teach mixing techniques, I guess, but I don't think you can really teach sound, so to speak, what it's supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
That's kind of something that is just inherently, you can teach someone to play guitar. It doesn't mean they're going to be a great guitar player. Even if they try really hard, sometimes they can't. It's not in their DNA to be that great guitar player, or likewise, you can teach someone to play guitar. You can teach them to play really well, but can you teach them to get a tone out of an amp with their hands? Meaning that they might have awful sounding hands. Somehow they lost the, which I've never been able to really figure out exactly what it is either. So, it's like I'm limited as a player, but Stevie Fryad always used to love me to come play through stuff because he goes, it's just the way you strike the guitar, you make it sound great. Like if you're playing three chords, AC/DC or something, it just sounds right. It just sounds like AC/DC, or it sounds heavy, or it sounds, it just has the right tonality. And I think I worked harder on having the right tonality out of my hands than I did actually playing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, so it's impossible to teach.
It is.
I
Yeah.
how okay, someone's playing through something and it sounds awful, right? But you know this sounds good. And you play through it, it's like, this sounds great. They play through it, it sounds broken. So they're playing the notes properly, but how do you teach them to make it not sound broken?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's a combination of how they hold their pick, where they place their pick, how they palm mute or don't palm mute on the bridge,
How hard they're
how hard
pressing.
they're picking, pressing, playing. And it's hard to explain that exactly. I think it's really, and it's hard to even define it. I mean, what makes that okay, I'll play the same chords as that person and they'll sound totally different.
Yeah.
So
you've had the luxury of actually playing through Eddie Van Halen's priced Plexi.
yeah, sure.
Friend of mine, he was one of my first guests when I started doing this, Dave Leslie. Known him for a very long time. His band, the Baby Animals, opened for Van Halen on the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tour. Mm-hmm. And he said he finally got to get in there and actually play through Ed's rig. And he said he was just so disappointed that it didn't sound like him. And that Ed would come backstage and they're playing through these crappy little PV Rages or something. Yeah. And he goes, man, he starts playing and that brown sound is coming out of this $100 amplifier. It's in his hands. Yeah. It's in his hands.
Yeah, totally. I watched him play through a Line 6 practice amp backstage, and literally it sounds like Ed. I mean, you know, it's not exactly the tone, but it basically sounds like Ed. You know, the hands thing is a huge part. I brought this up a million times that there's some Steven Rosen interviews with Ed from back the Van Halen 2 era. The record had just come out, and Ed's playing either through, I can't tell if he's just playing acoustically or through like a little clean Fender amp or something. Totally clean, right? And he has his guitar there in the interview. And if you listen to him, he's showing some of the new riffs and some of the new, songs and stuff. And it's totally icy clean. And I swear to God, every pick harmonic, every thing that he normally does just pops right off the fretboard. And it's totally clean. And you think, that's some powerful hands.
Absolutely.
With no gain, no nothing, and it just sounds like it's, raging through an amp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I had a guest on a week and a half ago. He's invited himself back on this Tuesday. I might have to see if he can change that day, but that's cool. A chap over here by the name of Bob Spencer. He currently plays in Rose Tattoo. I don't know if you guys have heard of Rose Tattoo.
I've heard of Rose Tattoo.
Yeah. So guys like Guns N' Roses and stuff always cite them as being influences. Bob's played for some of the big bands. He was in a band called The Angels, which were huge in the late 70s, 80s over here. And I commented to him about his rhythm guitar playing. And everyone talks about Malcolm Young. I reckon number two in Australia would be Bob. And I've got a little snippet on my channel that I put. I said to him, man, I asked him about his playing, how he got that sound. And he gave a really good description about when he's playing, his right hand never stops. It's constantly flowing. He says he hits every string, and his left hand is muting the strings that he doesn't want to hear, but he's striking them all. The ones that he's actually muting with his left hand become like little percussive pieces in between. Mm-hmm. And he really gets it about, there's an art to smashing the fuck out of your guitar, playing rhythm, and not have it go out of tune. Some guys can, some can't.
Sure.
Yeah. I can't play a guitar that doesn't have string trees on the E and the B, regardless of staggered tuners and stuff.
You'll knock it right off.
I'll pop it out of the nut within the first 10 seconds. And a lot of that's, I've got that pendulum going. And when I'm on the way back up, that percussive thing that he's talking about, it pops straight out. Other guys don't have an issue with that. Oh man, staggered trees, that'll cover it. Nah, sort of staggered posts. Nah.
I remember years ago when I was younger, I used to break D strings all the time.
I still do.
D strings at the bridge,
yep,
all the time.
Yep.
And it was the way I attacked the guitar, and it was the way I was digging in, you know. And I don't break those as much anymore. But I think it had to be with the particular guitar and the Floyd I was using and this and that at the time. But yeah,
D and A for me.
Yeah.
Is that, yep.
Oh,
I
wow.
think when I'm palm muting and stuff like that, that's what cops the brunt of it.
yeah.
So I remember saying to you, Dave, in Germany, that I don't think your amps are for everybody. Well, the ones that I've played, there's not many over here, so I don't have that much experience with the whole line. If you play electric guitar the way you play an acoustic guitar, jingle jangle, I don't think that's going to bring out the best in a Friedman amp. If you are the kind of guy who attack it in such a way that, you know, when you're muting, you make that thing pop out of the speaker. That's what I love about your amps. I don't know what it is, whether it's the transformers or something else in there. Like each duk, 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 jumps out. It doesn't get soaked in. You're probably not going to appreciate that about your amps if you play guitar like an acoustic guitar player. And there's a lot of guys out there that are.
No, yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, no, there's no point. It's going to be feeding back, and it's going to be.
You got to tame the beast. Tame the beast.
Yes.
Talking about that, for the last couple of years now, just for small gigs, I was using a Kemper when I was touring in a Queen tribute show. I was a Brian May impersonator for a few years. I actually have a red special guitar on its way from a company that want me to put on the silly wig and jump around in front of a green screen. I'm looking forward to that. That should be a cool video. I was using, after the Kemper, I sold that to buy my small box. But I started doing small gigs around town with an iPad and just using BIOS effects. It still sounded like me. I had other guys go out, friends of mine, buy exactly the same rig. I gave them my presets. And I remember this one guy in particular, he's not a guitar player as such. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He's just one of these guys that give him any instrument and he just eats, breathes, shits music. It just comes out of him. He's just got it. But it just didn't work for him. That feedback issue and all these things. I remember getting in touch with him and saying, how'd you go using my presets? He's just gone, I can't use that rig, man. That's just not for me. So it is all in the hands, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's very much so.
Yeah, it really is. And so, like, I mean, another person, we talked about this before, like some of the people who really attack the guitar. Phil X is one of those guys. Really just has, he just has such a visceral way of playing his guitar, and at least, you know, nowadays, one of those guys. Yeah, he's got a lot of great tone in his hands too.
Yeah.
Steve Stevens.
Steve has always been a very percussive player. That's what I call it, a percussive player. The way he used to palm mute and attack the downstroke, chugging thing was just percussive, just brutal.
That's, I got to say, Steve's probably, a lot of guys when they're doing the downstroke thing say, oh, James Hetfield. Steve Stevens for me, man. When I was a kid listening to Billy Idol on the radio, I didn't play guitar. I was actually more interested in synthesizers at the time. Didn't play guitar, but I knew that Billy Idol songs had good guitar in it at a young age. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't playing guitar back then, or drums. I think when I was listening to that music, it was on MTV. But was it Flesh for Fantasy? Where
Oh,
that guitar comes in, yeah.
Totally. Yep.
I
Totally.
was just like, oh man. I mean, that's
that's
just
one of my
fucking,
favorite riffs.
Yep.
yeah, so good. And it just comes in out of nowhere. It's just great. Great song.
I did warn you guys that I drink a hell of a lot of coffee, and it's just after midday here, and then at some point I might have to go visit the bathroom right there. So Mark, I'm going to ask you just about your cool little man cave there. Some of the memorabilia that you got sitting around. Do you want to show us around while I just take a little break, and I'll come back in 30 seconds, mate?
Yeah, sure. Sure. I can actually move the camera. Hopefully it won't do anything. But yeah, I'm into comic books and stuff like that, so I collect comics. So I've got a lot of comic books. I've got a few Friedman amps. Let me move my chair. Maybe you guys can see. I've got a 4x12 BE100 from Dave, and a wet dry wet setup over here. And then on this side over here, which you might not be able to see, let me see if I can. So over there, I've got a Friedman modded Marshall. And then over here, let's see if you can see over here, I have an Ox and a JJ Jr. So that's pretty much the setup. And I'm getting a 4x12.
And then many comic book character dolls and things over there.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a lot of
Whatever you want to call it. Fake dolls, figurines, something.
statues, yeah.
Statues. There we go. That's
Yeah.
a better word, I think.
Well,
Mark
figurines.
plays with dolls.
Well, that's what my daughter says. She's like, "Are you playing with your?" She goes, "You playing with your Looney Tunes?"
Oh, oh man, really?
Yes. Oh God, she's always busting my balls. You know, but it's funny. I've actually been selling some of this stuff over time recently. Just trying to, like, I went through a period of selling stuff, and it didn't make a dent in this room at all.
Really?
Yeah, my wife was like, "Did you sell stuff? Because it doesn't look like you sold anything." And I'm like, "No, I did. I sold a few things." So the room's pretty packed with stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love your room too. We were talking about your JMP1 before.
This guy over here. That's not mine actually, mate. The ADA. I scored that recently as a contra deal. I did some jingle work for somebody. I used to be a jingle writer and worked in radio for a while. So I did an exchange because a friend of mine had one of those, and I used to be an ADA guy back in the 90s. The JMP1 belongs to a really good guitar player on the coast here, Scott Watman. He's got about 3 of them. And I wanted to do some comparisons, and he kindly lent me that to do that. I was going to get the ADA going again. I've got like a little Engels cab loader so I can use impulse responses. Just as a streaming rig that I can do a direct sound if I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to start getting into doing live streaming of demos if companies don't want to pay me to do the demos. I'm going to offer them to do a live thing, and if they want to send somebody on like we are talking now to actually talk us through the product. I did something similar with Richard from Hughes and Kettner last night actually. He's a really nice guy. I like Rich. And man, he knows how to keep an interview going. He's one of these guys that jumps in as soon as he sort of thinks, "Oh, we've run out of things to say." He'll keep it going. He gave me a couple of tips of things, and before the show, and one of them was a rip, and I didn't have the heart to do it to him because I knew he'd just look at me and go, "You're doing that thing to me. Don't do that thing." And we joked about that afterwards. It's like when I worked for Apple. There was a certain teaching method that we had as a trainer, a creative, as I was called. And I remember teaching a school teacher one time there, doing some training with her, and she's just looked at me and she goes, "I know what you're doing. I'd rather you didn't." And it's just like, yeah, okay. People pick up on those things, so yeah.
Certain techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. What did you do for Apple?
Creative was the official title, but a trainer. So basically, You bought a Mac, and you wanted to know how to use all the stuff that's on it. I was the music specialist, so I would have. There's a guy called big country artist over here named Lee Kernigan, for instance. He'd come in without his cowboy hat on. No one would know him. He'd always insist on sitting at the cafe outside and buy me lunch and everything. So it was really nice. Teach guys like that how to use Logic. That's how I picked up how to use Final Cut. We talked about the importance of thumbnails and things. I just use Apple's Creative Suite. I use Keynote to do my thumbnails. So it was a good grounding to learn the stuff that I'm putting into practice now. In fact, I got really encouraged to do this through 10 years after I finished that job. I still get invited to creative dinners with my ex-colleagues. And a few years ago, I said, man, I really, really want to have a go at doing product demos. But, I don't have any lights or anything. So a lot of the stuff that I've got around here is borrowed. People have just went, oh, man, you're perfect for this. Here, have this. I've got this tripod. I've got this camera. So I'm really thankful for those people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
You guys got any future guests lined up that you're excited about that you can spill the beans on, or do you keep that to yourself, like what's coming up?
No, I've got a bunch of folks lined up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to run through them?
Yeah, why not?
So the next guest is Peter Stroud. That's on May 29th. Yep. And then we've got Brett Papa, who's a YouTuber.
Is that Papa Stash? Yep. Okay.
So he's on June 12th. And then we may move this, but right now we've got Tim Pierce and Pete Thorne. I was going to call him Tim Thorne. That was weird. On June 26th. Or we may have Bill Kelleher.
Cool.
From Mastodon.
Cool.
On. So I'm waiting to hear from him. And then we've got Jordan Ziff on July 10th, which is Jordan's from Rat.
Ziff. You cut out.
What's that?
You cut out when you said his name, so I just said it's Jordan Ziff.
Oh, no, came through on this end. Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so Jordan Ziff from Rat. So he's playing with Rat now and also play with Marty Friedman. No relation to Dave. So he's coming on July 10th. And then, we've got a bunch of people. I mean, I've got a list right here that Dave and I have talked about.
Yeah, and folks. I have some more that I've been thinking, like I'd like to have Tosin Abasi on.
Ooh, I'm going to write that one right down.
I wouldn't mind having Misha Mansour on. I wouldn't. I mean, there's a host of other people that I know are sitting around not doing anything at the moment. So, Steve Lukather agreed to be on, but that's been going on for a long time. But he's home now, so I just got to send a new message.
Send a new message. Get it out to
Steve. And
I will say
and
his
the
name.
Guys from Paul McCartney, we could do always.
Rusty Anderson and Brian Ray.
Yeah. Or do them at different times. There's some more I was thinking about, but
I've got on the list. We had Bob Rock as a possibility.
Oh, Bob Rock said yes, so we just need to now schedule it.
Awesome. Awesome.
I've been trying to get Brendan O'Brien, but he didn't respond to me, so I'll try again.
Doug Pinnick, we talked about.
Yeah, Doug was on someone else's show recently. John, who's our sales guy, was on his show, so I can.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
Yeah, maybe in a little while I can reach out to Doug. That shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so we got a whole list of people that hopefully we'll be able to have on, and then also, we have other manufacturers as well. I get a lot of people who ask about, different amp builders who can come on, different other manufacturers. One that I haven't talked to you about it, Dave, was I was going to reach out to the people at G&L and see if they wanted to come on. I forget the guy's name, Dave McLaren or whoever's running that.
Yeah, maybe. Sure.
Yeah, great guitars. What's that?
My phone's ringing, and it's a studio legend. Louis, I don't know if you're watching me, mate. You need to come on the show and co-host with me, because the first person that he said he was going to get as a guest was Steve Lukather. He's very good friends with him, so I'm not sure if he's actually watching right now or.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, Steve, man, he doesn't hold back, right?
Oh no, that should be an interesting show.
Yeah, he speaks his mind. What a great player, man. God, I was watching. Have you seen the Lee Skylar videos?
I know Lee, and he's amazing also.
Yeah, he set up.
I haven't seen any of the videos though.
It's cool. He set up his own YouTube channel, and he's doing a lot. He plays the bass basically in a lot of the hits that he's played on. Mm-hmm. He was on Rick Beato recently, but they were talking. I guess Lee played with Toto for a period of time, which I wasn't aware of. But he was talking about his time working with Jeff Porcaro, and I mean, I was such a fan of. Yeah.
I remember him being on sessions with Steve Lukather and Jeff Porcaro and stuff.
Wow.
I remember. I remember distinctly sitting in front of Jeff Porcaro when he's doing his shuffle in the studio. Oh my God. Such a fucking sweetheart too.
Wow.
Yeah, man. What a great player. Yeah, he was amazing. Yeah, Toto. Yeah, we have to have Steve on. So that's a must.
It's coming.
Guys, I just got my first ever super chat from Jose. Question for Mark or Rick. Is the difference from a Friedman amp, what is the difference? Let me press the button so that it comes up. What is the difference from a Friedman amp to a regular Marshall? Is it like a Camaro to a Corvette engine, having never played a Friedman amp? So, Jose, I might start off. Mark, you've probably played more than I have of the variety of Dave's amps. For me, I had a small box, and that was my pride and joy for a long time. People would tell me it was the best sounding Marshall they ever heard. What I loved about it compared to a standard Marshall, I find standard Marshalls can be a bit scratchy sounding to my ears. I don't know how other to explain that, but there's just a scratchiness. Dave, I don't know if I'm making shit up here, man, but it seems that.
Well, I think a lot of what people attribute scratchiness to is certain Marshalls.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Old Marshalls aren't really scratchy.
Yeah.
Like old Plexis and 4-input amps aren't really scratchy. And that's where my amps come from. So if you want more of a modified Plexi sort of sound, that's what my amps do well. It's kind of the Ferrari of British style amps, so to speak.
So my experience in recording different Marshalls over the years, I worked a lot as a producer around Queensland years ago, was that from the late 80s on, they just had a scratchiness about it, and you jumped in with saying that, and I've never liked them since. I haven't played any modern Marshalls to know if they've gotten rid of that. I will say that I was playing a gig with an Australian artist, the singer of a group called The Models, Sean Kelly. I was doing a gig with him. After the first song, he's come and tapped me on the shoulder, and these guys are all getting older. They're not wearing their glasses on stage. He just went, "That is the best sounding Marshall I've ever heard." And the other thing that I like about Dave's amps, and this is going back before Dave was making his own amps, he was modifying a lot of gear, but I was using Randall MTS. And I'd actually bought from Dave a prototype module that he'd done for Steve Stevens. It was a modified SL Plus. Don't know if that rings any bells for you, Dave.
Yeah.
And that rig of mine, the old RM4 and RT250, was I bought it in a big rack. People would ring me and say, "Hey man, do you want to come over for a jam?" And I'd look at this thing and I'm like, I'm not fucking picking that thing up to go around to someone's place. But people would come to my place. People would come to my place and I would just play a big drop D chord and just go, listen to this. And it was the harmonics, the content, all the air on top. And I find Dave's amps, you can play not just root fifth power chords. You can play, major sevens, and I'm no jazz guy, so I don't get too much more complicated than that. And the clarity is there. I like the way he's asked me and Mark, not you, Dave, because you're biased. But there's a clarity in the notes, and I'm sure at the end of this, Dave might give us an explanation. I didn't want to turn this into a Dave Friedman interview, but how to do that. But there was this air. When I got delivered, I was the small box, so straight away I was working at a music store, and I plugged it in, and I played some chords, and one of the guys just went, "Those harmonics, man, the content up in the air that modelers just can't recreate for me."
It was sort of like it's sort of like you just ring out a chord where the high strings just fly off your guitar, and you just like cling, and you just hear every single one of those notes, and that little chirp at the end when you get the high strings, and to me that's what I want to hear. So and that's what my old Plexi would do, the 68 Plexi. So basically I was mimicking that amp with the Variac and everything that I did into a modern amp with the master volume and stuff. So so there's a little DNA of that Marshall in all these amps.
How about you, Mark? The question was directed at you as well, mate. Do you have a take on Dave's amps?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny. So I was actually just telling this story to someone else recently. About 13 years ago, I heard about Dave's amps on the gear page. So I heard about the Marsha and stuff like that. And I was always into the Van Halen tone. Always wanted to get that Van Halen sound. So, and I always wanted a Friedman amp. And then subsequently we ended up meeting each other, and now I have a bunch of them. Jose asked, comparing it to I guess to a regular Marshall or maybe a modern Marshall. So I've had a couple of them. I have a 50 watt, so it's a 1987 X reissue of the 50 watt Plexi, right, from Marshall. And they still make that, or at least I think they still make that today. And then also I had a Jubilee, right? So a reissue Jubilee. Cool amp. Once I got the BE100, there was just like it is like there's something about the tone, the way that the sound is just more appealing. It's almost like studio ready. That you're playing this incredible tone out of an amp that you don't have to do anything to. I find like with a Marshall, like with the Jubilee, I could get there, but I had to use a pedal, and then I had to boost it and all these other things to get to the tone where it would get close to where I wanted it. But it's right out of the box with Dave's amps. So at least that's how I feel. And like Dave modded my my Marshall 50 watt Plexi reissue, and it sounds completely different than from what it originally. It was very, very scratchy, high end, very trebly, almost like what's the word? I can't.
So it's still 4-input non-master circuit. I just tuned it to sound like my 68 Plexi.
Right.
So
and when you say tune it, you change like capacitors.
Well, there were some values that were a little different, and so you had to change some capacitors and some different things, and a couple little tricks that I know to do to the 1987X to make it, sound older and stuff. And we had it on an amp switcher against the Plexi and stuff. Even Pete Thorne heard it and just like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
that's it. Yeah. So there is a difference, Jose. And look, Marshall's a great company. They have a great legacy. I just wish, better for Dave that they don't. But it'd be nice if they would come out with some really, really cool products like they used to.
I mean, realistically, I love everything that was non-master volume.
Mm.
I love all the old amps. Yeah, I guess maybe some of the JMPs when they started doing the very first master volumes were pretty good, and once it got to JCM 800, it just turned bad. And the funny thing is, like people revere an 800 these days, and it can be a good amp, boosted, and it can be great. But the funny thing is, when those amps first came out, we all hated them. It was awful. I mean, they were. Oh my God, that's not as good as the JMP was, which is basically the same exact circuit, but it had a little bit better transformers and stuff, and they sounded a little richer and a little bit better. And just like, we all hated them. They were cheap transformers, didn't sound that great, sounded kind of, used to call them, the transformers sounded sort of oinky, which is sort of like this little wah cocked on thing that they would do. And, it was just a different era. It's like you're coming from this really great stuff, which now no one has heard. Now 800 sounds great because they didn't hear the old stuff. So, I don't know.
It's funny you should mention the JMP. I can remember in the 90s playing in my original band, and I was using an ADA MP1 with a quadriverb and a Carver solid-state power amp, 150 watts a side, into two Marshall boxes.
Yeah.
And I tuned that over the years to sort of just have presets and bang, bang, bang. A friend of mine bought a JMP head back then for next to nothing. And we stuck the Soldano hot mod in it.
Yeah.
And I took that to rehearsal for a couple of rehearsals thinking, yeah, I'm going to lose the effects and stuff and just play a real amp and just see how it goes. The guys in the band hated it. They just went, man, that just sounds like arse. But I think tastes change. Like some of those records from the late 80s that I thought sounded great and I'll go back and listen to now has that scratchiness that we were talking about in some of the Marshalls. And, fast forward to the late 90s, 2000s, everyone was on the whole rectifier trip and, everyone was into that buzzier kind of sound, which was never my thing. I think Dave's amps are going to stand the test of time. Just the clarity and the harmonics and everything that I was talking about.
Cool.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you guys? I'm gonna throw this in. Do you have a fan on Tone Talk by the name of Poo Ninja? Hey, Poo Ninja. This guy is everywhere, and I don't know who he is. He won't reveal himself. He's apparently friends. He's all the 42 Gear Street, all the big YouTubers. They all say, "Man, yeah, Poo Ninja's," in all the comments all the time. I've had a couple of people say, "Oh, I know who he is, but he's very private. He doesn't want to say. He doesn't do Facebook and stuff, but he's just." I've just noticed he's in there.
I've seen him in the chat.
You have?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolute classic.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who I recognize in the chat these days. Bev Davies, I don't know if you've seen him or if I'm saying his name right, but yeah, he watches all the. He's like, and then there's Ben Coombs, who I think he's become the moderator for everybody.
Yeah, right.
So yeah,
I'm going to need a change of battery, guys. I'm just going to cut to the two of you guys as I do that.
Sure.
I do have on order the a adapter for it. It's a bit of a pain in the bum using a DSLR. That the batteries don't last.
Oh, that's what you use for.
Yeah, you guys can
I
see
see.
that now. That's what's sitting in front of me. It's actually a mirrorless. I say DSLR. If I was to say mirrorless these days, because they're kind of new, people probably wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
So that's what you use to broadcast from a camera perspective?
Yeah. So what you guys are seeing is pretty bad. That's just my iMac up there that you guys are seeing. But I have, if I turn that on.
Like 4K.
No, it can do, but it actually crops a little too much. Everybody's going to see me adjusting the camera here. It's cool. It's rock and roll. It's danger, man. I'm actually looking through it. Let me just go to the shot of me. Bit crooked. Oh,
Go ahead, pose, Rick.
Yeah, meow. Chit chats with geek cats. You got to have fun with it, don't you? Can't be too serious.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, I got to say, I look back at the first few demos I did, and I'm so stiff. I'm sitting there going, I'm just going to read that thing over there, and having a decent camera was a big thing to make it a lot easier for me. That it actually had the autofocus and everything that was missing on the other camera that made things very hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, your demos look great. I mean, they really do. And
Thank
sound
you.
great, too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As I said, I worked at Apple and I got to pick the brains. I worked with a lot of very talented people. So I was the music guy. The photography guy was from Washington. He was 25 years as a photojournalist for the Washington Post. He could walk past something with a phone in his hand and just go, and it'd be the best photograph you've ever seen. So when it came time to actually buy a camera, and I was asking around, it seemed the worse people were at the basics of just getting your composition right and lighting and stuff like that. They were going, man, you need a Sony A7 Mark III. And I'm like, you have any idea how much that is? Like, this thing that I'm talking to down here is a really base model Canon. But it was my friend who was a photojournalist said, man, just learn to use that. That will override any good gear or anything. It comes down to, like we were saying about guitar players, like Lukather can plug into a shitty little combo and it'll sound like him because he's learnt to milk it with his hands, you know?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, at some point it becomes a little bit of overkill on how much gear and, focus on the content, I guess, right?
Yeah. I'm sure people think I've got some big streaming setup in front of me right now. No, I have that camera. I have done them just with the iMac camera, but that's a really old iMac, so it looks terrible. It's what you guys are seeing right now. I have an interface down here, which was a doorstop. It's a Steinberg UR22 that I didn't even realize I had anymore. Like, people want to harp on about converters and stuff like that. It doesn't matter anymore, man. They're all good enough. That's my rig. That's and this,
it's fine.
Yeah. But
Yeah, you don't need much these days to do it.
Totally.
Totally. I mean, I have the camera that I use is a 1080p Logitech.
Cool.
That's a USB plugged in to the Mac. And then again, I don't even think I broadcast in 1080p.
No. So well, that brings this up, Mark. People are probably assuming you've got some big rig going on there to control tone talk, but you don't, do you? You just got your iMac there?
That's it. I just got a Mac and run it into, I use the Blue microphone.
Sorry, mate, just hold it up again. I just went to the shot of you again. Yep.
Yes. So I use this, which is, the Blue microphone. And that's a USB plug-in, and that's really it. That's it. And just the camera, the Logitech. It's, pretty low tech,
Yeah, and I'm just an iMac with an SM7 now, which is new I've had it forever, but I actually hooked it up.
Sounds a lot better.
And, into a Apollo, UA Apollo interface.
Yeah.
Just the standard mic pre that's in the Apollo. I mean, just for this. I mean,
That's all you need. That's all you need.
yeah.
Yeah. I actually did some recording the other day. I was just recording some music, like acoustic stuff, and I pulled out. I had to look up like what kind of microphones I had. So I had an SM57, which is what I was using to record, but then I also had this Sennheiser E835,
Nice.
Dave, and I was like, maybe I should use this for the show. But I think this is better.
I think the blue's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah. They're great. Of course, that's expensive.
Is it expensive?
What are they? $400 US
Oh, okay.
or something? Yeah, something like that.
I
But you need a pretty strong mic preamp for them.
yeah, I got to say I do crank it on there.
I mean, like my gain on this UA mic pre is like just cranked.
Really?
Well, yeah, because the SM7 has a very low output level. It's a very low output level. So
The reason I'm using one
don't
is
need a ton of gain. So
I'm using it because of the rejection factor. I'm on top of a busy road here, and if I use the mic on my iMac up there, you can hear the traffic going past and everything. But this has a very tight pickup pattern. Quite a big room, so anything else sounds very roomy as well. So that's why I started using this. And yours is out of picture, I see, Dave. Like you've got yours fair way down, so I can't see it in the picture.
Not really. It's pretty
Oh no,
close
it's right
to
there.
my
No, you're just wearing a black shirt. Okay. Yep.
I was going to say it blends in with the shirt.
That's the tip of it right there.
Yep.
So.
Speaking of shirts, I've got my Tone Talk shirt here. Where can folks get a Tone Talk shirt?
And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to Tone Talk.
Yes.
And if you haven't subscribed to Rick, subscribe to Rick.
Make sure you subscribe to Rick. Yeah, tonetalk.com, tone-talk.com. You can find us on YouTube. T-shirts, I have to order more T-shirts. If anybody wants a T-shirt that's a medium, hit me up. I've got like 5 left. But other than that, I have to place an order for new T-shirts. Might do a new design. Same logo, but something different.
Who came up with the logo?
Actually, a friend of mine. You know Liquid Charlie?
No.
So he is Charlie Stinchcomb, I think is his name. He has his own channel on Instagram. He's a great guitar player, plays a lot of Van Halen stuff. So I approached him. We were talking one day, and I said, yeah, I need to get a logo made for the show. He's like, I could take a stab for it if you want. And then he sent it to me, and I was like, David, home run. Nailed it.
Nice.
You know, and
I love it when it works out like that. You know, like and making T-shirts and stuff too, like, you know, and stuff. I remember when it was time to do T-shirts, not new T-shirts. I was looking for a new design, and I went through a couple people trying designs, and you know, I was like, you know, here's the kind of vibe I want. Make me, give me like 6 designs so I can look at, and you know, just pick. I like to let people, you know, be creative and pick. Yeah. That doesn't always work. You're like, when you look at the sheet of 6 designs or something, and you're like, oh man, I don't like any of these. You know, but so I just went back to our original artwork guy, and I go, hey, I need a new shirt. Do this, you know, kind of like this, and this is what I had in mind. And the first draft he sent me, I'm like, yep.
That's it. Yeah, I like the new shirts.
And he sent me 2, and I'm like, both were like, yep. And then we just slightly tweaked it, you know, a little bit, you know.
Yeah,
I love it when you get a guy that you're used to working with and he kind of knows what the deal is. It's just great. Just like, bam.
Yeah, they hit a home run. Like even the guy who did the video, when I sent him the music, I was like, just see if you can pull something together with here's the logo and the music. See if you can, and he sent it to me. I was like, good, perfect. You know, So it doesn't usually work out that way.
I was very lucky when it comes to a logo because I've started to realize, this is all branding, isn't it? You got to build the brand and everything, and you need a decent logo. So a few years ago, local designer here, he's top of his game, does all the big corporate stuff, asked me to handle all the music at his wedding and just run all the music and play a bit. He wanted to sing to his wife. He wanted me to play guitar unexpectedly. And he asked me how much I'd charge. And I said, mate, nothing. I'm going to throw that on the favour pile because one day I'm going to need a logo out of you. And when time came, he did exactly that, where he sent me a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And the RH with the little thing. Yeah, it was actually an RH music, Rick Hollis music. But then he had variations, and I just used that one. Apparently, his wife came up with that one. She's a designer as well. He said he had a whole bunch. Claudio Curac, if anybody's interested, look him up. He's fantastic. He said he'd come up with everything, and it was his wife at the last minute said, hang on, audio, that wavy kind of thing, why don't you make the M out of that? And he's just like, didn't think of that, and that's the one I went for.
Yeah, cool.
That's cool. Yeah, your logo looks good.
Well, thanks, Pat. Yeah, it's that whole networking thing we were talking about earlier, isn't it? Like,
exactly.
Yeah. And I do that a lot with people. I've got another friend who's great at video production, and over the years he'll ask me how much, and just like, on the favour pile, and when time comes, you call on those guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so true.
Yeah,
cool. Very true.
Dave, do you know of any
mods?
Well,
Rick,
sorry, mate, you go.
What was that?
I was going to ask you. We were just talking about. We were going to talk about the JMP behind me and the ADA. Have you got any mods up your sleeve for those?
No. The JMP sounds great. There's no need for any mods. It sounds really good. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Really, you don't think that there's any need for the mods? Because I see
it's
the
mostly
Voodoo mod.
solid state. Oh, that's. Don't get me started there.
Okay. Yeah, that's some serious expensive modding.
Yeah, no, I don't see any. It sounds good straight out of the box. I think. I don't foresee on OD1, no bass shift. That's the sound.
OD1, no bass shift. Taking notes.
Yeah.
One thing that I like about you, Dave, a long time ago when I was getting my Randall MTS modules modified by you, is when something's good enough, you'll say it's good enough. You won't say, hey man, I can mod that and make it sound better, just to take someone's money. And I really appreciated that about you. I had a few modules. One of them was the top boost, the Vox style one. And I remember you saying to me, no need to mod that. That sounds good. But I did compare my actual module at a music store with the stock Randall one, the SL Plus, and everyone uses that description of taking the blanket off the speaker.
Yeah.
That was totally
Yeah.
Revelation,
Cool.
man. Revelation.
Do you still use those modules?
No, I sold that a while back. It was just way too heavy. I'm trying to think what I would have sold that and got. I seem to recall having a Bassman head around about the same time. Maybe I sold that and bought that, an old mid-70s one. It wasn't that good. What I did get modified from Dave, though, I bought in the States, was a Bandmaster head that I bought for next to nothing and had it shipped to Rack Systems. And I was asking around on Huge Racks Inc., if anybody remembers that forum. It's not a porn site. And people used to see that in my history and go, hey, I know what you've been up to. So it's not what you think. John Sir actually recommended putting a Bassman output transformer in it. Yeah, and then you also convert it to 240 for me and then send it over. So I was playing that for a little while. That had a particular sound. It was too loud. I didn't have a decent attenuator. I couldn't turn it up to anywhere where I could actually get a good sound. Any dream amps you guys have owned that you really regret selling over the years?
Oh,
Too many?
Sure.
I'm sure. David.
Yeah, a whole ton of different old Marshalls. One in particular, I remember that there was this stripped 50-watt Plexi Marshall that has no Tolex. And it was modded by Dan Russell, who was the designer for Naylor amps. And that amp sounded amazing. And why I sold it, I have no idea. I wish I could get it back. That was a cool amp. So several other Marshalls and things I wish I still had, and a high watt 50 I wish I still had. My original very first amp with Fender Silverface Deluxe I wish I still had. The thing is I've sort of been rebuying some amps that I've wanted, like vintage style amps that I've wanted and stuff. So I mean, I feel like my little collection's kind of cool now. So
That's cool.
Yeah.
The only amp that I really regret ever selling is a 50s tweed Fender Champ.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I had. There's a local guy here, the guitar broker. He sells vintage gear, and this is back in like 2004, 2005. I bought for $500 a tweed 50s Champ, and it was great. It was great, and then at some point, I don't know, I just figured, I'm not really using this thing. Let me get rid of it. Sold it for $500, and now you can't pick one up for less than $1,500. And it was such a great amp, man. You just turned that thing on 8 or 9, not 10. It started getting a little farty, but it was instant stones. You know, it was such a great amp, and it was.
I used to have one.
Really, yeah. Any tweed Fender would be amazing to own, but yeah, that is the one amp that I was just like, God, I wish I didn't sell that. That was a stupid move. Guitars, I sold a PRS Custom 22. That was gorgeous. But outside of that, from an amp perspective, I'm pretty well taken care of these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a Valley Arts guitar for many years that a guy hassled me to buy off me, and I eventually did. And that's one guitar I kind of regret selling. He's still around. I might hit him up one day when I'm a bit more financial. But we're just talking about those old Fender Tweeds. There's an interview on my channel with Louis that just tried to call me before, where I had a 52 Tweed Deluxe and an original 52 Telly here as well. And man, to listen to him play through that was just stunning, absolutely stunning. Yeah,
I can imagine.
Great
Yeah,
sounding.
that combination, and he's such a player.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there really is nothing like. I mean, like people talk about taking a either a hot rodded Fender Strat or a Les Paul through a Marshall. There's nothing like that. There's also nothing like getting a Telly into a Fender Tweed amp or one of those old Fender Tweed Fender amps. Sounds amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How about when it comes to modelers, guys? I know there is a different. I can hear it. Like if there's a commercial comes on TV, on YouTube or something, I can hear straight away if it's a modeler, if it's not. You guys got any opinion what the closest one out there is at the moment?
Oh boy.
Is that a can of worms you don't want to open?
Well, both can get great results. So I mean, when I say both, I mean the Fractal, Axe Effects, or the Helix. So I mean, those are truly modelers where it's not just a snapshot of like the Kemper is. Both can be quite good. I know that Line 6 did a quite good example of one of my amps in their pack, although I do feel that The IRs, you need to change the IRs. I mean, in a lot of these things, you need to find your own IRs and use them, and it'll greatly improve the tonality of them. But I mean, they're still fake to me, you know. But I mean, but do they sound? Can they sound good? Yes, they can. Sure, you know. But there's a little something that's not quite right.
Yeah, I have a Kemper.
Cool.
So, I kind of wanted to dive into that world as well. I love tube amps, clearly. But, I use the Kemper. I keep it out in my living room, and I use it as kind of like my practice kind of thing. But when you really want to turn it up and turn it up loud and play loud, there's just a difference, much bigger difference. And I have it running into a 2x12 Mezzo Boogie cabinet with vintage 30s. It's a nice cabinet. I turn that up loud. There's a two-dimensional quality to it that we were talking about before. When you play into Dave's amps, you hear this harmonic quality. You can feel the tubes. You can feel it pushing air. I don't get that with the Kemper. So but they're, like Dave said, they can sound great. They really can, and the right application. I love playing through it and practicing through it, but and I probably would record with it. But would I play it live? Like if someone said, "Hey, look, we've got a gig," and I have a choice of my 3 Friedman amps and the Kemper, which am I going to bring? I'm not bringing the Kemper. So,
how about some of these floor units that are coming around now that have got power amps built into them? And I've interviewed a couple of guys in the last week, Hughes and Kettner, Thomas Blug with his Amp 1, and they're telling me that they're analog amps, digitally controlled analog amps. Do you guys feel there's a difference in analog? Would you call that a modeler? I guess it's not really a modeler, is it? It's an amplifier built into a floorboard.
Yeah, it's not really a modeler per se. No, it's more of a part tube, part solid state amp.
Yeah.
Just like that Marshall is back there.
Yeah.
That Marshall JMP, which sounds great. So can it sound great? Sure. Thomas's stuff sounds fantastic. I think. I mean, it's cool products. He's a great guy. He makes a good product. Yeah, it's hard to. Maybe there'll be a Friedman floor pedal one day.
Yeah. I take it digital something you're going to avoid. You're going to stay with a true.
Yeah, we're more analog.
Yeah. Analog hard.
Based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have Thomas's Amp 1, the Mercury edition. Not the new metal one. That's I think the Iridium.
Yep.
Yeah, and it sounds great. I keep that in my garage, and whenever I feel like getting loud in the garage.
So what's in the bathroom?
Yeah, I was going to say you've got something.
You got the Kemper. You got the Kemper in the living room. You got this one in the garage. So
yeah,
you need like a little helix stomp for the bathroom.
What I use at home these days is this thing back here.
Oh yeah, that's that. I've seen you play that thing. That's super cool.
Yeah, I've been using this, which is an amplifier built into a guitar. It's got all the effects and
yeah.
They're a California company, Electrophonic, and they've got what's called the Model 1, which is nice and shiny, but this is called the Guitar Modillo. It's got a scratch-proof Impervacoat coating on it, so
Cool.
yeah, it took a tumble off my couch a couple of weeks ago, and if it was a Gibson, it would have snapped the headstock off the way it fell, but no, it didn't. It survived unscathed.
Nice.
Yeah, the guys let me specify custom a few things on that. I asked for a maple board. They gave me bird's eye. You can probably
Nice.
just see it in there. Yeah, down to the colour of the grill cloth in there. Marshall-style knobs. What else did I pick? Black hardware. It's great. It's just rechargeable batteries go in the back here.
Oh, wow, look at that. Cool.
Yep. So I'm going to have to
How's it
have the
sound?
guys back on. Unfortunately, that was probably like my second interview that I ever did, and we made the mistake of sound checking it all the day before. It was all cool, and then we logged on the next day to do it, and they'd moved. They didn't do it from the same place. They went and set up from their home, and they had it all cranked through the stereo so they could hear everything. And the echo, I didn't know at the time, but when I look back, it was like, oh man, that's unwatchable. So I have invited the guys back on to do that again.
I actually have had we had a show like that too, with Santiago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have him back on again, because that episode, it's so hard to listen to because his room was so boomy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
You do enough episodes.
You learn.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, unfortunately, I have to go.
That's cool, man. That's cool.
So, I mean, I hate cutting you off.
Yep.
But yeah.
I might round things up anyway, Dave. Yeah, I'm trying to. I see that 2 hours is kind of as long as I'd want to watch something myself. So I just want to thank you guys. It's been great. It's the reverse.
It's been awesome.
The reverse tone talk, or as I like to call it, the.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, we'll play that.
That's great. I can't repeat that, but yes.
No, it was awesome to have us on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Like I said, I haven't had anybody say no except for one local player. I got a not at the moment from Jason Becker's dad, because they're being very protective and keeping an eye on Jason Becker, but no no's yet, so you can only put it out there, can't you? And
Cool.
yeah,
Excellent.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So thanks for
going,
tuning in,
bro.
everybody. And if you haven't seen Tone Talk, you know all about the guys now. The guests that they have are absolutely fantastic. I sit there and I learn, and it's my version of TV. And I just want to thank the guys again. So